Mike Nowicki here at the State House, and today's guest is Brattleboro's Representative Sarah Edwards.
Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, and it's a cold morning here in Montpelier today.
Bracing, as we might put it.
Yeah, we are enjoying a real old-fashioned Vermont winter with lots of snow and lots of cold temperatures.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on at the State House. We've got a lot to do, and speaking of the weather, one of the things that is on a lot of people's minds is climate change.
Yes. Yesterday there was a rally here by, hundreds of people actually. There were over, I don't know, there must have been 20 different groups here. There is an organization that organizes town committees, and there are 100 of those. I don't know quite how many were here yesterday, but there's a lot of momentum building up about keeping on and keeping our focus on climate change and gearing our policies toward dealing with that issue. It's the biggest issue of our time, really.
One of the things that I have been impressed with is how many younger people are really getting involved in this. And I think it's important for us to be listening to them,
Yes.
to validate what they're feeling on this. And it's their world we're handing over to them, and I think there's a lot of concern but the kind of world we are handing over to them. And I think this is why it's become such a pressing issue for many of the young people who came here yesterday.
Yeah, and I have to say that I think that there's a lot of hope here in Vermont because we actually acknowledge this in a way. I know that the committee that I serve on, which is Natural Resources and Energy, we have been working on different ways of generating energy for the past 8 years. We haven't had a statewide integrated energy plan for quite a while, but we do have a new commissioner now who takes it very seriously, and we'll be providing some guidelines around that. But we've managed to do a lot in the meantime. It'll be, I don't know, I just think we need all branches of government working on this. So it'll be good to get the executive branch in.
Well, one of the things that was pointed out yesterday is this is another area where Vermont has and can provide the leadership, starting with Bill McKibben, Vermont's Bill McKibben, starting what's now a worldwide group, the 350.org, and with all the transition groups going on and peak oil.
That's right.
This is a concern that we are working hand in hand with you over.
And we had some speakers. I had an opportunity to speak yesterday, just very briefly, welcoming people to the State House, and had put in a resolution more as a refocusing tool for all of us. But one of the things is after I spoke, one of the organizers presented me with a mock-up of Time magazine that said on it, "They saved Vermont, can they save the world?" And they were referring to Vermont legislators being very serious about this. So it was a good day.
There is an energy bill that's being worked on in your committee right now.
That's right.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, it is in flux right now. There's a report coming out from the Public Service Board that we asked them to do last year, was to evaluate some of the financial impacts of some of the previous legislation that we've enacted. And we want to see how that's going, so it's a check-in. Unfortunately, it comes in October, so we may not get a huge part of the bill, which was to get 1/3 of our renewable energy, 1/3 of our energy be renewable by 2022, which could be a tall order, but we felt it was a worthy goal. But at the same time, it's probably prudent to wait for that report. But there are other things in the bill that will have an equal impact. For instance, expanding net metering, and any number of other things. It's sort of a kitchen sink of ideas, but it will move us forward some. Maybe not as much as I would like it to, but it is a committee process, and we hear lots of testimony, so we have to sort of balance that and just keep pushing as much as we can.
It's hard to talk about energy in Vermont without talking about energy. There's a lot of talk about what's happening now with the plant.
Yes.
A lot of concerns that are going on all around the state. There's another leak being called now the leak a week there, and a lot of concern about the fact that they stopped testing because I'm not quite sure their latest excuse there.
It's a mystery. I don't understand running a business like that. It's just not in a universe that I deal in. But here I am in Brattleboro, and we're dealing with it. But there's talk of a new offer coming in, and I guess my question is a low offer for energy going to stop the plant leaking? Is the low offer going to stop Entergy from not being very clear on what they're doing and resisting all of the things that they were supposed to do in the big report that we had the scientists look at? You might remember that a couple of years ago we had a comprehensive reliability audit, it's called, and there were over 81 recommendations that needed to be implemented, and they haven't all been done yet. And so
there's some pretty big ones there.
Yeah, there's a condenser that needs to be replaced, and luckily in that set of questions that we asked the scientists to investigate, there was an investigation of the pipes, even though they said they weren't there. So it's going to come to a head fairly soon, and we're going to see if they're going to purchase the new fuel. That will be I think the telling point is if they purchase the new
It's
fuel.
in April?
Well, I believe it's around April. It's in the spring, for the next outage and the next replacement of fuel. So we'll have to see. We just don't know. But
There's a lot of talk about electric rates in Vermont and them going up. And I think one of the reasons there's talk about going up is that Entergy does have an offer on the table, but it's at a rate that's 50% higher than they're currently charging us, and it's for less electricity. Is that right?
Right. Well, what the utilities are finding that while it would be convenient to have VY kept online, it's not necessary because our usage in the state of Vermont is down. It's flat, and the more we invest in efficiency, and there's still a lot in the state that could be done with weatherization and I'm not going to get into the details. If people want to find out more about how they can save money, they should call Efficiency Vermont, and that is a service that you have paid for, our friends here in our communities, and utilize it. It's something that belongs to you, and you can really tighten up and button up your house in fine ways. So we're using less energy overall, and it's flat because we're not going up the way other states are. That's a huge piece.
There's a lot of concern about supply. Now, Vermont gets our electricity from the New England Power Grid.
That's right.
Now, how much does Vermont Yankee contribute to the New England Power Grid?
Well, it turns out that Vermont Yankee is basically 2% of the grid, so I think it's 620 megawatts now after they did the uprate. So it's gonna be a little bit of a, utilities.
So supply is really not an issue.
It's really not.
There's
No.
plenty of electricity in the grid.
No, and we had Chris Dutton in our committee, and he is the CEO of Velco, and he said, yes. He said, but we're ready for it. That's what he said. He's not saying it's very much fun to have to plan for that, but
I think one of the most telling things for me is that Vermont power companies got out of this and really seem to be distancing themselves. And for our benefit, I think it was a good deal, and I think one of the things we really have to be concerned with is making sure that this out-of-state entity does not dump the cost of doing business. And
well,
what about a decommissioning fund bill this year? Do you think we're going to see that?
Well, I'm not sure. There's some debate about that. I know that there is one in, but I think we are thinking more about the greenfield cost. Greenfield cost is above new NRC standards, and there are other plants who have wanted better standards than the NRC has. They allow a certain amount of radioactivity to remain on the land, and Vermonters made an agreement with Entergy when they bought it that Entergy would take it back to greenfield status. So that will help us reopen it for industrial use, commercial use, perhaps siting another type of plant there in the future. So there are options there, and the sooner we clean up the plant, the more revenue we'll generate from that valuable piece of property.
Well, it's not the only thing we're dealing with here.
No.
Healthcare
Yes.
has been front and center.
Yes.
In this last campaign, I was surprised at how many businesses contacted me about the costs of healthcare and how, for instance, Paul Millman at Chroma said his healthcare costs now are twice what his tax liability is. And it's not taxes that are hurting his business, it's healthcare costs.
Yes.
We've got to do something about healthcare costs.
Yes.
Current system has nothing in place to address the cost of healthcare.
It's really not a system, is it?
It's not. It's one of the things Dr. Show's research shows. It's just a fragmented blob right now.
Yes, yes. I think Vermonters know that. I think that Vermonters are well on the way to really wanting a different kind of system than what we have,
So
which is a non-system.
we got the report from Dr. Show.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I think it really puts us in the right direction, and I think it's what we've been talking about. It seems like 20 years, Mike, and he made it very easy to understand, and I think if people want to read it, I believe there's an executive summary available online. If you go to the Joint Fiscal Office site and get to that, just Google it, Vermont Joint Fiscal Office. There are actually a lot of interesting reports there, and I think that would be one way to access it, but it seems to me that overall it's going to save us millions of dollars, even in the first year. Now, you may have more of those details, but I think it sets us well on the way because, yes, small business really does suffer, as do our citizens, but also think of how healthcare costs impact municipal budgets.
Municipal budgets, school budgets,
Everything.
personal budgets. And downside of it is because fewer and fewer people have access or are paying more for less.
Yes.
Our outcomes are going down.
And paying more for less is, we're saying those words, but we're talking thousands of dollars more for less.
My own health care in the last 10 years has gone up 100%. And can you imagine if everything in our economy went up to that degree?
No.
It's not sustainable.
It would immobilize us. It's just not going to happen that way.
I think there is if you just go to the legislative website, there's a web page, there's a link right on there to look at that.
Yep.
I think this is the way to go. I think the current system is unsustainable, and there's really nothing in place to control costs or to increase access. And as far as the insurance companies go, it seemed to work for them, but it doesn't work for the people anymore.
That's right, and I think we're setting a good foundation to go forward. I think we've finally arrived. Not to say that there aren't major details to work out, we know that, but I think the overwhelming support is headed in that direction.
Yeah, I think because of the economic impacts, this will become a force in helping our economy move forward and make for healthy Vermonters.
Are we expecting a bill out next week?
I think there's going to be a draft that we're going to start looking at in the healthcare committee. We'll be taking testimony and looking to move something forward. The governor has made this a priority, and I agree with him.
Yep, me too. Yeah. And I think most of my constituents agree with him. I haven't heard from anyone who says don't do it.
Yeah.
But, so I think we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, it's interesting that there's very few people who are saying we can't do it. We have to do something. Or many people saying we have to do something.
Yes.
And few saying let's leave the current system the way it is.
Yeah, nobody has said that.
I don't hear much of that except people who work for the insurance companies.
Yeah, there will be a shift there for sure. I mean, people, but that's what happens, industries and things change in our society and in our economy. And we have to just find the pathway to get to a more positive spot. I know that sounds a little flowery, but it's true. Look at the auto industry, the steel industry, all sorts of things. Huge things change, and this is one of those. So I think we'll get there.
Well, it's early in the season here, and I hope we can do this again before the session ends. And I do appreciate you taking the time this morning.
I appreciate being able to communicate this way with constituents, and I really need to hear from people, though. I want to hear from people through email. Sometimes it might take a week to get back to people, but because there are a lot of people who are active in our legislature, and that's
How do
why it's great.
How do people get a hold of you?
Well, they can call my cell phone at 802-558-2348. And then, of course, I have my email. So that's the same for all of us. You put the first initial and the person's last name. And so mine would be S. Edwards at ledge, which is leg.state.vt.us.
You can also call us at the State House, and all that information is on the legislative website, and it's also
Yes.
at my website, wyndham5.net, along with my contact information.
Great.
And thanks to the people back at BCTV
Yes.
for their ongoing work in helping to bring Vermont's government and the State House work closer to you.
Thank you, and thank you, Mike.
Thank you. And for another edition of Montpelier Connection, this is Representative Mike Milliken with Sarah Edwards today. Bye-bye now.
Bye.